So I just want to thank everyone for coming out to this meeting. For those of you who are just at the AGM, for those members, we've just completed our annual general meeting, and now we're ready to start the presentation format. Just a couple things which I said to people in the annual general meeting, which probably bears repeating for those who weren't there, is we do have a speaker, the last speaker for the summer break for Thursday in June 24th, Stan Shishevsky, will be there to speak about Laura Blackwell, who was the opera singer from St Catharines. Stan gave a presentation a few years ago on Face Street, for those of you who may remember. And then we were off for 2 months in terms of presentations, back again September 23rd, 2021, where Roger Bradshaw will present on his the new book with John Burtniak, Journey Through Niagara. So I just didn't want to raise that, and that's it. And without any further delay, I will ask Gail to introduce our speaker.
Yes. Hello. Yes, I received a very long CV from David Sharron, which impressed me immensely. Just his professionalism is quite amazing, and I did not know that about him. I'm just going to read from a small bio. Okay. David wanted to become a history teacher, was always interested in history, and when he was studying at the University of Waterloo, one of his professors said you have to do a major research paper, and he became intrigued. It had to be something on archival records, and so he actually did a co-op placement in Ottawa with the Department of Indigenous and Northern Affairs, picking up archival documents for land claim negotiations, and that led him into the world of archives. Very current, actually, when you think of it today. He's been a professional archivist for 23 years with many papers, many conferences, too many to talk about. He graduated with an MA in history with specialists in archival specialization, if you will, through the University of Windsor and Wayne State University in Detroit. And believe it or not, his first job was in Houston, Texas with NASA at the Space Center. And he was an image archivist in care of mission photography. And then he came back to Ontario, and he became the archivist at the Bruce County Museum and Archives in Southampton, Ontario. He says it was a very exciting time because the whole museum was being redone, and he took a huge part in the exhibits and the design and exhibition space. And then he came to Brock, and he's loved being the Brock Special Collections Archivist for many years now, 15 years. And he's the head of the Archives and Special Collections Department there. He's certified archivist, many things to his credit. But what amazed me most is when I looked at what he'd done, is he's expanded the role of the Special Collections Archives well beyond just the history of the university and the personnel and anything that's the syllabus and that kind of thing. His outreach to museums and libraries in Niagara and beyond has increased the scope of what special collections and the archives do well beyond. And for instance, he's got such things as the United Empire Loyalists, resources on autism. It's well beyond what we think of as just a Brock University Special Collections, and that's what David is going to tell us about today. So please welcome with me, David Sharron.
Thank you very much, Gail. I do appreciate it, and thanks for everybody who came out tonight, especially with the Montreal-Toronto hockey game going on. You guys chose to be here, so I appreciate that. As an Islander fan, my big game was last night, so the good stuff is already over. So happy to have everybody here. I am just going to start my presentation or share my screen, and we'll get into the talk. Okay, for the people who are still mic'd up, can you see this? Is it looking okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, so yeah, with the introduction that, I'm already going too far ahead. With the introduction that Gail gave, everybody knows I'm from Brock, and the collection that we have there is absolutely wonderful, and I really look forward to this opportunity to talk about it and to explain. Everyone here has a special interest in St. Catharines. If you were ever to use our facilities, these are some of the resources that would be available to you and some of the strategies about working in an archive. So we hope to see you up at Brock one day when the pandemic's over and we're wide open again, but we'll jump right in and get started with the basics. With what is an archive, and every archivist has this on their bulletin board. The classic shoe cartoon from the 1980s, I believe every archivist across the world was excited that someone actually recognized this in the cartoon. But the punchline, of course, is an archive is a dump without seagulls. And in many ways, that's true. An archive is a place where records that have enduring value go to have another life once they're no longer active with the people who created them or collected them. And when we talk about archival records, these are often the primary resources that are the building blocks of all history. We're talking about diaries, photographs, film, correspondence between people. These are the one-of-a-kind type of materials that if it goes missing or if it's destroyed, you're not going to get that little bit of history back. So it's our job in the archives to make sure that these are preserved long-term for all future scholars and researchers. And we are also a special collection at Brock, and the special collection is a little bit different. That is where someone picks a subject or a variety of subjects, and that's what they focus on and go after and build a collection. And where an archive is something that happens more naturally over the course of existing. We all get records over time, whether it is our emails or our texts nowadays, or handwritten letters and cards. That's just archives that happen because we are alive or a business is going. But a special collection is something that was done on purpose. And fortunately at Brock, we have both. So when Brock University was established 57 years ago, every university collection library usually has a special collections area. And it was decided way back then that Brock would have one of their focus being all things Niagara. And that was a way to say thank you to the community who bore us. Brock University would not have been built without the really great work that people did at just recognizing the need for a university in Niagara, raising the money for it, putting all the support behind it. There were thousands of people who contributed to it. So the archives and special collections today wouldn't have been done, or the university at all, wouldn't have been done without the Niagara community. So that's where we all began, and I'm sure everybody here knows John Burtniak really, really well, and for a very long time, he established the collection that we have still going today, and something that we've all built off of. So what do we do in the archives? I'm an archivist, I'm not a librarian, so my focus has always been these one-of-a-kind type of documents. And so what we do when new collections come in is we turn something that is often very messy, things shoved in a box and tossed in the basement and forgotten for years and years and years. And we take materials that come to us like this box right here, and we create something that's nice, neat, and organized. We write finding aids and describe all the materials in a collection. So when researchers do come to us, they know exactly what box and folder they can go to hopefully find the information that they want. And because we have all of this information and storage, we provide access to the people who come to see us. And archives are a little bit different than your traditional library and museum organization in the sense that we keep collections together as they came to us. So if a family donated their historical archives to us in 9 boxes, none of those materials will ever be mixed with anything else in the archives. It will always stay together as that family's collection. Oftentimes in libraries, things are grouped by subject. In museums, you might pull all the train materials out and have a box on trains and railroads to present to people. But archives, it's part of the standard, the main principle of archives is to keep everything together as it was given to you. And we can't describe everything as much as we would love to. This is an example of one of the banker's boxes that we have at Brock. There's probably about 2,000 pieces of paper in a big box like this. And we can't describe every little bit of paper. We usually try to organize things. A file folder might be just meeting minutes, and we would just note meeting minutes from May to October 1957. And that would be all that we can catalog. Maybe if we have some extra time, we might pull out some details of what was being discussed, the main highlights, but there's always more information that you have to go into these boxes and dig around and find. There's always new history to be found within an archival collection. And it all depends on what kind of angle the researcher is coming at. So this is a picture of the reading room in the Archives and Special Collections at Brock. We're located on the 10th floor of the Shimon Tower. And it's a really, really comfortable place to work and do research. The only thing about this is the only room researchers can be in. There are back storage areas where we keep most of our materials. Edie Williams, who works in the Archives and Special Collections, she calls this the fine dining of your library experience. When you come in here, you sit down, you tell us what materials you like, and we go in the back and bring it out to you like it's a nice fine dinner. We can't, because of the value and scarcity of some of the materials in our collection, we can't have people just walking up and down the aisles, taking things off the shelves and putting them back. We do take great care at making sure you get what you want and that you're as comfortable as possible. So what I thought I'd do today is just, given St. Catharines is the subject of the Historical Society, we're going to do a sample search for something St. Catharines from the collection at Brock. So, oops, I just hit the wrong part of my screen. Here we go. So this is just a look at our library catalog, which is massive. And if I just search very simply the word St. Catharines, we have over 36,000 hits, which nobody would want to go through one at a time to try to find exactly what they want. So always come to your searches. Everyone has a narrow subject. So I thought it'd be very interesting to just look at the Shickluna Shipyard as a subject for tonight and seeing what materials we have in the archives on Louis Shickluna and his business and family. And so if I change this search to Shickluna, and what I want to stress here, if you're ever in our library catalog, if you click this button up here, you get everything in the library. But if you click this button right here under Archives and Special Collections, you'll only be searching things in the archives, which will narrow down things much more concisely for everybody. So this is certainly the best way to go. And with the search, it only comes up with 6 items, which sounds really kind of pathetic for such a legendary character in our history. But we have 3 books about that mention Louis Shickluna in some way, shape, or form. That's been put in the catalog record, and 3 archival collections, and that's it in the catalog. So that's kind of interesting. So just to poke around, I'm gonna click on this one right here, the Sykes, Well, and Canal collection, just to show what everything else is. The information we have on this collection is you get the years of when the materials were brought together. This is the call number. So if you do visit us at Brock, this is a call number that you would want. And same with books, the call number would be right here. And if we have anything online, whether it's the finding aid or if we digitize any materials and place it online in our digital repository, here are just quick links that will bring you to those 2 resources. So we do our best to digitize materials as much as we can. We have one person dedicated to scanning and putting things online all the time, and she's absolutely amazing at her job. But I would say less than 1% of the materials we have in our collection are online. So don't think everything's online yet. We're far, far from that. But we do our best to get the highlights of every collection up online. So just a quick peek at, just the library catalog. I don't want this to be too catalog heavy. So, when I did that first search on Shickluna, it was kind of disappointing to only see that we had 6 things in our library catalog that mentioned Shickluna by name. And that's no fault of anyone at Brock. Usually our collections are so big that we can't describe every single thing that might be in it. So this is where you have to start digging. And we're very friendly with Kimberly Monk and the Shickluna digs that she's doing. So I like to think that when she's doing the Shickluna dig, going layer by layer into the dirt, we can do the same type of dig bit by bit into the archives, looking for Shickluna in an academic sense rather than a physical sense. So I always recommend to anyone to start with your secondary sources. So there have been some wonderful history books written about St. Catharines. And in here, you can start getting those details about Shickluna and his family. You can go into the index or in the table of contents. You can find the chapter on the Welland Canal, find the bits on Louis Shickluna, and just start noting those highlights of who he was and what he did and what he was associated with. As well, we all search on Google for things. I'm sure there's Wikipedia pages out there on Shickluna, and just to find that base information out there is always the best place to start, so you know where to go from there. And then we have a bunch of city directories from St. Catharines. Some date back. This is one of our earliest ones from 1863. So I grabbed this off the shelf, and because it's nice and in alphabetical order, you can really quickly find the information that you're looking for. So right here on page 74, you can see Louis Shickluna is listed as a shipbuilder along the Welland Canal, and his house is on Hainier Street, and it's on near St. Paul Street. And of course, above it, you can see his sons Joseph and Henry also there as ship carpenters, also living on Hainier Street. So just a little bit of information, something to grab, note in your research, and something that you might have to come back to. Like, you got some locations, you got his son's names now. Let's go from there. We have another city directory of St. Catharines from 1877. So looked it up again just to see if anything's changed in 14 years. And certainly it has. Right here, Lewis is still the shipbuilder, but he's on Ontario Street now. And his son Joseph is a bookkeeper on St. Paul. And Henry is on Side Hill, which is a part of the city I'm not familiar with yet. So something else to investigate. And what's really great about these city directories is they have other pages that kind of list what the city has to offer anyone who's interested in visiting or who is investigating the city in any which way. So they list city officials, people in the police department. So I started scanning through this to see if Louis Shickluna was involved in government or in any other type of civil way. And I got very excited because the name Shickluna jumped out at me. But this is his son Joseph, who was fire warden for the St. Thomas ward of St. Catharines. So again, just little notes. It's not just finding things in one place. You have to very methodically go through each one of these documents and see what you can find. So city directories are a great place to start. Gives you some locations and things. So there's also voters list, and we're lucky to have a voters list from 1874 from St. Catharines in one of our archival collections. So again, because it's alphabetical order, I can find Shickluna fairly quickly. And again, St. Thomas's ward, we have Louis Shickluna here as the owner of his house out on St. Paul Street. And there's his son Joseph again, and I even miss highlighting Henry here, all living kind of in the same area. So very consistent. We know they're kind of in a few spots in those in that 15-year time period, but you know, we know their dates and what they were doing at that time. So we have locations. So let's look at a map next. That makes sense. We know they're on Hainier Street, St. Paul Street. We know the shipyard is along the Welland Canal. So this is a map that we have access to, the Marcus Smith map of 1852. And here you can start seeing the wards of St. Catharines, St. George's ward up top, St. Paul's ward here along the canal, and then St. Thomas's ward on the bottom of this map. So we'll zoom in and get a closer look at the Shickluna property. So here we have the shipyard right here, and the outbuildings, you know, the 4 buildings along the canal. Really, really nice to see. And here you see three buildings owned by Louis Shickluna on Hainier Street. Those could be the ones mentioned in the directories we saw earlier. And this was a surprise to me, but maybe not, because I've talked to Kimberly Monk about things. But Louis Shickluna owned this big chunk of property on the, that would be the south side of St. Paul Street. And from what I understand, this is where a lot of his workers would live, in kind of a shanty town, where they would come and go, transient workers, as they would come in and out. There were buildings here that Shickluna let them build homes in this area, just down the hill from Rodman Hall. Actually, this probably predates Rodman Hall, but so this is a nice visual look at the Shickluna area. So I'm like thinking to myself, it's like, okay, what other maps do we have from this time period? And in the archives and special collections, we have these Welland Canal survey maps from the 1860s. So this is map 10, and it shows the bend of St. Catharines as we get towards downtown. So to zoom in on this, again, we see the Shickluna Shipyard and the outbuildings similar to the Marcus Smith maps. And the nice thing about this map is that it's a working map. It was always being updated over and over again. So you can see the basin, either it was an error by the original person who drew the map, or the basin changed over time. You can see two aspects of this. And you can see the other companies who are across the street, a nice tavern there for your lunches, a liquid lunch, I guess. The brewery's nearby too, so it was probably a very joyful place to work. And then, so for me, going through the secondary source materials, looking up directories and maps, it's very visual, very quick, something you can do just to get your legs when you're starting your research. But you can always dig a little bit deeper in archives. There's always more to discover. So that's the next step I would do in looking up Shickluna. So any archive will have thousands, tens of thousands of photographs in their collection. And if someone is really, really methodical and wants to look at it, I would start asking, okay, what are the photograph albums that show St. Catharines during the time period of Louis Shickluna, or that might represent the Welland Canal or something like this. And this is a photograph album we have in the collection that belonged to Alexander Grant, who was the chief architect or chief engineer of the building of the fourth Welland Canal. And in this photo album, he has a lot of historical images of the maps and plans for the fourth Welland Canal, but he also has some of the history of the Welland Canal in there, as well as his own personal things. So here's an example of one of the maps that he had in his album. But of course, we were so happy to find this like classic image of the Shickluna Shipyard in all its glory from 1864. You know, you can see the three ships are being built at the time. They give a lot of great detail of what these ships were. You can see the buildings up on the bank of the canal. This is one of the spas. Some of the houses that are up here. It's just a wonderful image, and it's like, great, we have a picture of Shickluna Shipyard in Brock's collection. This is absolutely wonderful. That's great. Let's see what else we can find. So we start digging around for other images. And this is a recent photo that we got. I think we got this in February. And I got so excited because I saw a ship, and it says it was from St. Catharines, and it's right along the canal. It's like, oh my gosh, this is an image of Shickluna Shipyard that I've never seen before. And I'm not a scholar of this in any which way, so I get excited about everything. So when you look a little bit closer, it's St. Catharines Wheelworks is the main focus of this building. So the ship is on the other side of the canal. But technically, it is a Shickluna picture in a sense that this ground right here in the foreground of the image, the camera was actually set up probably at Shickluna Shipyard looking across the way. And if you want to use your imagination a bit, who knows, maybe one of these individuals here are some of the workers at the shipyard, maybe Henry Joseph or Lewis himself. But all guesses, but kind of neat. So again, looking through photo albums, seeing what someone else might have. And then you can look through older history books that might harken back to the days of of further past. So this is a book that we have in the collection by Thomas Kiefer, The Old Welland Canal, from 1920. And this is a wonderful image. It's a little modeled because it's printed on paper, but it is a picture looking across the Shickluna Shipyard, showing William Hamilton Merritt's house up here. So another just angle at looking at it. So very quickly, quick look by me, we found 3, maybe 2.5, maybe 2.25 images of Shickluna Shipyard in our collection. And we have thousands more that anyone who's interested can pour through. And then we have a lot of local newspapers. We have it on hard copy, we have things on microfilm, and this takes the absolute most patience for someone to go through this and look for those bits of evidence about Shickluna Shipyard that might be in here. So on April 24th, 1862, I just saw this nice little, it's a little bit longer than what I show here because I wanted it to be readable, but it's a nice launch article about a new ship that Louis Shickluna had just finished. And it goes into great details of what it was. It was a rainy day, but there was no accidents during the launch of the boat. And it also mentions that there are 2 other boats that should be ready at the Shickluna Shipyard in the first week of June, just a few weeks later. So very busy time for Shickluna. And then I would be checking the newspaper in June, maybe even July, to hear about the launch of those other boats that are mentioned in this article. So one thing can springboard into another, into another, into another. So newspapers, always a fantastic resource to get some information. But then you can go even broader in your search in the archives. So one key thing that keeps coming up when I was looking up Shickluna is the Welland Canal. It's obvious the shipyard was on the canal. He did a lot of work with people going up and down the canal. So I started looking up collections that we have that deal specifically with the canal. And right here on this shelf, after looking it up in our finding aids in our catalog, I found this collection that might be helpful. And that book on top of that last page is a journal of deeds, contracts, leases, awards, etc. from the Welland Canal Office from 1826 to 1860. So right in that wheelhouse of everything else we've been looking at with Shickluna. So I had to open up this book and go through page by page looking for Shickluna's name. No indexes or anything, it's just that hard grunt work of doing history. So on the contracts page, page 72, right here, there's 2 instances of Louis Shickluna having a contract with the Welland Canal Company. So on May 10th, 1855, he had a contract to build a dredge boat, and the same day, 2 dredge scows for the Welland Canal Company. So this is an instrument number for each contract. And if those contracts exist anywhere, at least you can use these instruments numbers to find the details of what that contract was. And you have dates to go off of as well. So, really, really interesting hit. We got something about Louis Shickluna in here. Wonderful. And then later on in the deeds, you can see Louis Shickluna and his wife sold off some of their own land to the Welland Canal Company in November 1852. And there's more instances, like we've gone through more of this book. There are other instances of Shickluna being in here. So we get a more sense of his business, what he owned, what he didn't, how he managed his commerce with the Welland Canal Company. So really, really interesting. I don't think anyone has seen this in a very, very long time. So we're uncovering little bits of history that could be very new information and useful information for any researchers interested. And of course, when you think of the Welland Canals, I always think of Roberta Styron, Bobby, as well as Rob, and all the work that they did on the history of the Welland Canal. And when Bobby passed away, her research collection came to Brock. And there's 28 boxes to this collection. It's massive and it's so well organized. She was absolutely wonderful. So I thought I should look into Bobby's collection, see what she has on Shickluna and the shipyards. And nothing about Shickluna by name popped up, but she certainly did have things on ships and shipping and shipyards along the Welland Canal in various places. So I looked into these files, and sure enough, Bobby left no stone unturned. there's an entire file folder about Louis Shickluna, the things that she collected for her own research, the booklets that's been done, research on the ships that are known to be made by Louis Shickluna, and of course, newspaper clippings and articles. So again, Bobby is still a wonderful resource to this day. And when I think of great historians of our area, I also always think about Alan Hughes, and we have his research collection too. And again, Shickluna's name doesn't pop out in our finding aid on Alan, so I looked up shipbuilding and shipyards. And here is his article on early shipbuilding on the 12th. Of course, Louis Shickluna is mentioned in here. And Alan, if he could find a resource, he was going to grab it and keep it forever. And on the right side of your screen, this is a cemetery walk by Bill Stevens, and Alan has all the text of the cemetery walk. And of course, Louis Shickluna, this is Victoria Lawn Cemetery. Louis Shickluna gets a whole page and a few pages dedicated to him and what he did in St. Catharines. So I'm getting more and more information from these great historians. Really, really good stuff. So now I'm spinning off thinking, okay, I've checked Welland Canal things, I've looked through photographs, all the other resources we have. How about as contemporaries? Do we have anything from other business people or people living in the St. Catharines area in our collection who are contemporaries to Shickluna? And we have a collection of A.K. Boomer at Brock, and he was a dry goods dealer, and he was also in insurance and local politics. So like, well, if he's a well-connected guy, he might have done some dealings with Shickluna some point in time. So looking into this collection, we really struck gold. We found an 1844 contract in this collection, and it details the building of a ship for, is it M.W. and E. Brown of Hamilton. And the really neat thing about this is the legend I always heard about Louis Shickluna was he did everything by a handshake. He was maybe known to be illiterate, or he didn't put things down on paper at least, but here's evidence at least of it's not a formal contract, it's certainly a sketched out contract, it's a draft, but it does show that things may have been a little more formal than we all knew in the past. And to zoom in on here a little bit, this is the top of the agreement between Louis Shickluna of St. Catharines to build a schooner, the length and keel of 110 feet. And then a little more details later about how payment was going to be for it. And it was very, very regimented. When the skeleton was done, he would get a certain amount of payment. When it was 6 months in, he would get a chunk of pay. And when it was ready to launch, the payment would be complete. So this was really, really fun for us to find. It was like, oh my gosh, we have something on paper that shows exactly how he did his business. This is exactly the type of things we want to find in an archive. And again, something that might have not have been seen or read in over 100 years. So we're absolutely thrilled that this is part of our collection. And we can dig even deeper. I probably have babbled on for too long, but you can go deeper into who he was and just trying to find other things in our collection. So maybe he was a Freemason, and we have the minute books and membership lists of the Knights Templar Masonic group of St. Catharines. Or was he an Orangeman? Or did he belong to the Odd Fellows? Like, those records are out there too. We can look into other major business people of the area, like the Woodruff family, who is one of our larger collections. We can look through business ledgers and accounts that we have in our collection, church records, Grantham Township records, land record copybooks. These are all things that we do have at Brock. And then I love the tax assessment rolls that are at the St. Catharines museums. If you want to see how his business may have grown, it would have been reflected in his taxes. You can look at tax assessment rolls, I think from the 1860s all the way to the 1960s at the museum. And then there's other archival repositories. We're not the one and only place with these materials. The museum's a great place to go for their research materials. The Central Public Library has their local history room. And if you're really, really serious, I'd say go as far as the Ontario Archives at York University, Library and Archives Canada. Shickluna was a well-known, world-famous guy. his records have to be elsewhere and all over the place. So records can be anywhere, and you know, that's the exciting thing about this is you can never really maybe know when to stop once you get into a topic, but that's kind of the fun. So before I finish up, just some tips for visiting an archive. We often call ourselves the Lone Rangers. We're often a very, very small department of a bigger organization. And some archives might only have one person working there, maybe two. We're lucky at Brock, we have 5 people in our department, and everyone's wonderful to work with and very knowledgeable. But oftentimes, if you do visit, there are some things that you should know. So prepare before visiting, check your secondary sources or Google your subject matter and come with some details that you can use to bridge your next steps as you go through your research. Check on our online catalog and finding aids and have call numbers ready. You know, we see this a lot with students. They just come in and they say, I want to see all your books about St. Catharines. And it's like, well, we have, you know, 20 meters worth of materials on St. Catharines and books alone. Like, you have to narrow it down a bit. So you have to do a little bit of your work to help us help you. So, you know, look in our catalog first. It's always a good place to begin. Finding nothing is finding something. You know, some people get discouraged if they do a search and they come up with nothing. But now you know that you don't have to look at that resource anymore. You can check it off. Make sure you write down what you looked at, so you know you don't have to go back to it. Or if you want to go back to it again, you know what it is. We often have students and researchers say, oh, I was in here 4 months ago and I was using the green book, and I forgot to write what page it was on for my bibliography. Can you help me? And it's like, well, we have a lot of green books up here. We can't really help you. You have to start all over and find that book again. So always record what you looked at, even if you haven't found anything. We're there to help you. That is the absolute joy of all of our work at Brock. It's our most favorite thing to see someone discover something that they've been looking for, or find something that they didn't even expect. That is the absolute best. But again, I always stress that it's we're not there to do the research for you. We're not there to just say, oh, here's something and here's something, and I found this for you. You know, it's a partnership. When you come in, we do want to help you, but we're not there to handhold you through everything, because we have a bunch of other things that we have to do in our daily things. But you know, our daily routines are often full, but we are certainly there to support you in your research. And always call ahead and make an appointment at Brock. You know, sometimes we have classes in the archives for 3 hours. It's a special outing for a class to be in the archives, and we kind of reserve that for the students, or we might have a special event in there every now and then. So it's always wise before you come up, just maybe call or email and make an appointment. We wouldn't throw, if you don't make an appointment, we wouldn't shutter you away unless something big was happening. But it's always wise to call ahead, especially in other archives that might only have 1 or 2 people. And if that person's sick one day, you know, you want to make sure that your time is well used. So just a few tips before using an archive. And just to know, at Brock, everybody is welcome to use our collection. You know, about 35 to 40% of our users are from the community or beyond Brock University. So it's not just for students and faculty. A lot of our users are from all over the place. You know, one of our sayings is, you never know who's going to come in from Australia today, because we've had people as far as the other side of the globe come and use our materials. And it's an absolute pleasure to serve all people who want to come in and use our materials. We have kilometers of resources that you can refer to. So the books go on and on and on. And we do try to maintain that collection very tightly, getting all the new books. And our archival collection is growing all the time. You know, there's still wonderful things out there that are in private hands that we hope people might entrust to us, or at least to any other heritage repository. When people are done with it, make sure that it goes to a place that will take care of it, and so other researchers can find what they need and experience the joys of working with these materials. There's lots of materials that we can offer you. Here are some links. If anyone really wants this, I know this is quick, but I can email anyone these links if you want. But our homepage is there, so it gives you all the information about the archives. Our catalog, that's the link for that. And anytime we digitize anything, whether it's an archival item, a book that's out of copyright, or anything about the history of Brock University itself, if we digitize something, we're going to put it in our digital repository, and everything goes up in there. And since the pandemic hit, we had to do a major shift because we can't physically be in the archives processing the collections like we usually do. We've shifted to making digital exhibits of our materials. And it's been a really great way for our archivists to show what they know, because they do a lot of research and understand these collections very, very deeply. And now they have this opportunity to display a bit of their knowledge and to share it with the community. And everything that we've put up online has links to what collections they came from. We are very good with our metadata. So if you see something in one of our digital exhibits that's interesting to you, you can follow up and try to see what collection it came from. And when you do visit us in person, you can see it for yourself. So I'm almost done. This is an example of what our digital repository looks like. This is all the archival materials that we've digitized. This is just the A's and B's. It goes all the way down to the W's, I think. I don't think we have any Z's yet. But a great amount of materials up in here. In our digital exhibit page, we've done over 35 in the last year alone. So there's lots of great information here just to share. And when we get back to normal at some time, we do invite everyone who wants to come up and see our collection and use it. We're on the 10th floor of the Brock Library Tower. Our hours are 9:30 to 4:30 on weekdays, and to contact us, that's an email goes to all 5 of us. If you write that email, someone will get back to you eventually. So I want to thank you for your time. I can't see my clock, so I probably talked for 3 hours. I get off on tangents, but I do appreciate your time, and thank you for being here, and I'm available for questions.
Thank you.
Are there any questions?
Yes, there was one.
I can't, unfortunately, I can't see everyone's gallery view. So if you have any questions, just try speaking out to start and go from there.
Couple in the chat.
I'll see the chat. Do you have any time capsules? That's a good question. And it's one that was just asked maybe about 8 months ago. One of the collections that we have is, what is it? The Canadian Federation of University Women have been donating their materials to us for years. And they're coming up on their 100th anniversary, and they asked about a time capsule and could they put it into the archives with the rest of the materials. And we said yes, but we don't want a time capsule that's buried, that's got food in it, that will attract things like that. You know, we want a time capsule that will fit in an acid-free box and will fit on the shelf just like every other box, but it can be very special, specially made and packed with materials that are very pertinent to the Canadian Federation of University Women of St Catharines or of Niagara. So that would be the only one we have. Brock University has a couple time capsules around campus that I'm aware of, but I wasn't around when they buried or when they put them into the walls. So, not too many. Oh, can you provide the digital website address again? Sure, I'll go back into, I'll share that slide and leave it up for a bit.
Continue.
Thanks very much. That was from me.
Oh, okay, yes,
I'd like to access it.
yes. I'll try to share that page and leave it up for a bit. A couple more up, backwards, go backwards.
We
There it
have
is.
family funds.
Therefore,
Yes.
funds usually that's it's a
Product to library.
Yeah, I heard people are discussing the word phone.
money.
The word phone is our snooty word for collection. It's a French word, and it means more than just a simple
He just
collection.
Yeah, yeah.
But Yeah,
It's a
phone and
collection.
collection are synonymous.
Okay, did you know that in French?
The phone usually it's the beginning of something or it's an amount of money given to do something with it.
Are there other questions?
I put it in the chat section.
If I'm sharing my screen, I can't see the chat. So if someone wants to read the question to me, I'll try to answer.
Just when do you think you'll be allowed to open again?
Oh my gosh.
And you get your crystal ball.
Oh my gosh. We've been asking that question for so long, even us. The university is preparing to reopen fully in the fall. And that's, we're expecting 60 to 70% capacity for students, but it's still going to be hybrid and everything's contingent on how things go with the pandemic. But if we're open to students at that time, we'll be open probably to the public as well. So yeah, it's broken our heart not to be open for everybody, but if there's something anyone really needs, we'll do our best to give you some support or direction on how to find material. We can't digitize entirely, but you know, we'll do our best to support anyone who needs something.
Thank you. That was
David,
it.
Hi.
it's Patrick Little. There are a number of repositories of local history throughout Niagara.
Mean what he said, but
From obviously the Niagara and the Lake Historical Society, the St Catharines Museum, the Willoughby Museum, Mayholm Foundation. How does one choose as to what would be the logical place to deposit the collection of either an organization's history or a family history? Do you have discussions with these other operations as to where is a better place to put it?
I think we're all very nice to each other. We've done projects together, us and the other museums. But I do think, especially with archival materials in our collections, you know, there are collections that can go anywhere, and where I always leave it is it's up to the donor to decide what's best for their materials. And for me, I'm just happy if a collection is safe. You know, it is put in a place that it will be cared for, whether it's a museum, Mayholm, or any of the other libraries around here. I'm happy if it's there, and if I know about it, I will happily guide people to it. You know, the only pitch I can make about Brock is the materials will be available to students and faculty for research and classes. And if that's what the donor thinks is something they want done with their collection, then certainly we're one place to go. But I would never say we're better than any other institution around here. I think everyone is very professional in what they do and are wonderful places to donate your materials. So no, we don't have we've never had a meeting saying you get this and you get that, because I think we can all make a very strong case that a collection in any of our repositories can have a very significant use. So we leave it up to the donors and hopefully feel no guilt about that.
Thank you.
Okay. There's another question here, David, from Brian Narhi. Have there ever been problems with items being stolen or gone missing at the archive?
Not that we found yet. The one thing, we did a major renovation of the Brock entire archives from the ground up in 2009, 2010. And what we did there is we revamped everything, where we went over all of our policies, including security. So when I said earlier that the reading room is the only place where a researcher can go, they can't go browsing up and down the stacks or anything like that. And that's one safety measure. We don't want people back to where all the valuable materials are. When they're in the reading room, You can't put your coat and your briefcase up on the table. There's a shelf for that material to go into. You can only have like a laptop and your note paper there. And there's always someone in the reading room to help, as well as to be security for the materials there. We have a video camera in the reading room too, so if anything does go missing, we can always go back to the video and check. And anytime someone asks for something from our collection, they have to write it down on their call sheet, and we keep those in perpetuity, because it could be 10 years from now when we find something's missing, but we can always trace back who was the last person to have that book or that file. We can trace it. Yeah. So I think our security is as good as it can be. And we also do want to trust our researchers. You know, it's always the rotten 1% that ruins it for the 99%.
And Gail Neff asks, would you take original children's books?
That depends. We really do want to keep our book collection focused. So our collection focuses, number one, all things Niagara. So any book, if these children's books have a Niagara theme or were printed in Niagara, we would certainly be interested in it.
Yeah, the Shadow Gold, Montreal 20 and Toronto 15.
Yeah, I know, Montreal's.
But other books might belong in another library that's interested in children's literature. And I do encourage people who have older materials, if we don't take it in at Brock, we can try to help you find the repository for it. We've directed a whole bunch of collections to other institutions where it's a more logical fit. So we're not imperialist in any way. We want these materials to find the right home, and we can help you with that.
I just want to say one thing. A week ago, David Sharron didn't know he was going to be giving this presentation because the speaker that we had booked was Peter Mulcaster, who was going to be speaking on the railroads in Niagara-on-the-Lake. And he had to cancel. We hope he will be able to come back at some point in maybe a few months. But so we were a little anxious, and David stepped right up. Gail thought of David, and instantly he said, I'll do it, and this is what I'll do. And we're really grateful, and we're very appreciative of this talk. It's terrific to know all this information. Thank you, David.
Let me just second that. When I made the suggestion, because Elizabeth and I had talked about having David be one of our presenters perhaps next year, and I thought immediately of him, and I could not believe it when he stepped up. Thank you so much, David.
It's a pleasure and always fun for me. I appreciate it. I appreciate everything that the Society does for the community, and happy to be a small part of this. It's great. And I learned a lot about Louis Shickluna. I'm not from this area, so every time I open a file folder, I learn something, so it's great. And I will say, our materials go much broader than just ships in the Welland Canal.
Oh, yeah.
St Catharines is you can do a lot with studying St Catharines at Brock.
Okay. I think that's if that's it for questions. Again, just to echo what Elizabeth and Gail said, thank you for doing this at the last minute. Very good presentation. Good way to round off our annual general meeting. So thank you again, and thank you to everyone who participated at our EGM today or showed up for the EGM, and thank you to everyone who came here for a presentation today. Again, there will be a presentation in fourth Thursday in June, and that'll be our last presentation before we take 2 months off for the summer and then come back again in the fall. So on that note, I will see everyone hopefully next month. Okay, bye now.
Bye.
Bye.